Welcome back. We are here with week 3 of our podcast, and we're still doing it. I'm Pastor John.
Pastor Jason.
And Pastor Dustin.
We're glad you're with us.
What do you mean 3? Like, you didn't think we were going to make it to 3 weeks?
No, I'm just excited that we did.
Okay.
There's no negativity there. It's all just positivity.
That's wonderful.
I was thinking about it this morning, and I was like, even when you start something and you think, I'm going to do that every week, when you actually start doing it every week, you do have to...
Like a New Year's resolution.
Yeah, you have to
you kind of figure 6 weeks is be...
Yeah, you have a moment where you go, well, that didn't... Or you're just kind of surprised that you didn't just give up on that.
I think there's accountability because we know that people are watching.
Right.
Like,
they're counting on
there's
this
a handful.
podcast.
Yeah. They're like... I got some comments, like yesterday at church, some people moved seats.
Oh my goodness.
And we talked about that on the podcast last week, like jokingly. And then some people, I don't know if they did it on purpose or if it was an accident, but there are some people that moved seats. And I was like, oh. And then people texted me last week, like on Thursday, and they were like, just let you know, there's more than 2 listeners.
Oh, wow.
So you're saying this week we want people to leave money under the seats as like a test just to see if they leave money?
Right.
Is that what you're thinking? No?
I don't know, Dustin, but the incentives now?
I don't know.
What if we said
Who
that
knows?
we were hiding money under the seats?
Oh, there you go.
And it would be an incentive for coming to church.
There you
a
go.
scavenger hunt of sorts that you have to follow the podcast for the clues.
That sounds like something they would do like on Oprah back in the day. It'd be like, look under your seat.
You're
Yeah.
in the cash seat. I don't know.
You get $1, you get $1, you get $1. That's what it would be.
Well, speaking of last Sunday, I thought that we had an incredible movement watching the baptisms. As you say, every time the wet feet just make it so real.
Yeah, wet footprints.
You turn around and see the wet footprints, and those people were soaked. When I gave Ethan a hug, I was just like, yep, it's coming. I'm getting all that baptism, that holy water, those holy hugs.
Holy hugs.
That's pretty cool, man.
Okay.
That's a cool moment
It is a cool moment.
to hug somebody that's just been baptized. So I might cry on the podcast if we keep talking about all that. So maybe we talk through, what's going on with the church moving forward as we wrapped up God Is. Now we had baggage claim, and we got another one coming up this week, and it feels like we're straight into Easter.
We're not fully into Easter. We got another series coming up called The Grudge.
Mm.
What do you think of when I say The Grudge? Like, what could that sermon be about?
Are we supposed to answer truthfully?
Oh, I guess you already know. Well, yeah, like.
Oh, what I think
What
about...
would you think of if I said...
I'm going to get judged for this, but like neighbors that can't let go of, like their grudge and they're always fighting with each other, something like that.
Mm.
That's what I would think of.
Yeah, you got the wrestling, though, the old wrestling. There used to be the grudge matches,
Oh,
That's where
the
my
grudge
brain-
match.
Yeah, I don't know. That's probably not what it's about, though.
It's about forgiveness.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about forgiveness. Because if you don't forgive, then you hold a grudge.
Right.
So just playing on that a little
Much
bit.
better than what we thought.
I thought those were pretty good.
I guess the name The Forgiveness would have been pretty lame, so go with The Grudge instead. That's pretty good. Man, who thinks of your ideas for you? That's wonderful.
I have a wonderful staff.
We've got this idea of throwing out this MMM, and I wrote it in here as MMM so that you could tell us what that stands for, because I already forgot.
Memorable moments in ministry.
Okay, all right.
Memorable moments in ministry.
So, what do you think? What do you think we should frame that as? What is a what are we? We're talking about doing ministry, like I was handing out hot dogs on the street, or are you talking about like in the church this kid got up and said this thing, like all of it, or where are you going with that?
Okay, so I think that memorable moments in ministry can mean different things to different people. I think those of us that are in full-time ministry, probably like a lot of stories like that come to mind of like life change stories or healing stories, and some of those things. But even just saying it out loud, I think memorable moments in ministry, like anybody, whether you're in full-time ministry or not, could probably have a moment that you point to and be like, well, I'm not consider myself a minister, but like I was, part of this or part of that or part of life change or part of a discussion that they could have. They're not here, it's us. So I guess we would stick to more of our...
Is there something coming to your mind?
Memorable
moment?
I mean, I could like suck up here and say every moment with you and the staff is memorable. Yeah, is that what you're looking for?
He must have not done his yearly review yet. I don't know.
That's not what I'm looking for.
Man.
No?
I don't know, man. I mean, I think there's been a lot of memorable moments, when I look back to. I think I would say I'll generalize. I think one of the coolest moments in ministry for me is after doing it for this long, the sage that I am,
the old man.
I have had students that have been in my youth ministry, and then I have performed their wedding, and then I have held their child. And so to see ministry flow like that, and some of those are even parts of our congregation today, like in our church. And so I'll be sitting there on a Sunday morning and look out and be like, that's years of ministry, like right there, or years of life change that's happened, because you just have them as a student and then a married couple, and then you see them bring a child in the world. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty memorable.
Yeah.
Well, like I got one, I just fresh on what happened Sunday. I mean, Craig and Deanna Adams were here to watch Maddie get baptized. And I commented to Craig on Facebook that it was just so neat to see them here because I remember ministering to a very small, young Maddie and Hayden as kids here, and now they're discipling and ministering to my kids. So it's just kind of a full circle moment to see that and to watch all the teens kind of flood over in front and watch and take pictures and get excited about what was going on in the baptism Sunday. It hit me kind of hard because I was like, man, I appreciate seeing the amount of time and energy we pour into loving so many people. They've grown up and now they're loving and pouring the energy into our kids. So that
was pretty cool on Sunday because I didn't know that was going to happen. I don't know if any of us knew that was going to happen. Just the way that things were set up, the baptismal was set up over on here, and the youth typically stand over there. And when we said we were about to baptize one of our students, it was like this mass, like they didn't care. The whole congregation was sitting down, and they were like, "Excuse us, we're going to walk in front of everyone now." And they just kind of like traveled as a pack over to get in front of the baptismal.
I didn't see that because I was working with Ethan, like trying to get his shoes and socks off. He was like
he was not prepared for baptism.
He's wearing the shirt, and I'm like, there's quite a bit more that's going to get wet than the shirt. Like, I don't know if we're going in upside down.
You're not going in your J's.
Well, but your son set the standard for that. He got baptized in his Crocs. So Ethan was trying to dunk
holy
his
hugs, man. He had some holy Crocs after that baptism.
That's right.
But that and the children being in there for that, I think what an atmosphere where everybody just feels the excitement up front. And I think we have made such a big point of making sure our children see baptism and our teenagers see baptism that it probably is one of those things that leads to why we have more children and teens baptized, because we put an emphasis on it. But it was really special to see an adult get baptized. That's the first one in a little while. Because we've been baptizing so many students and children, what is it, do you think, that makes it harder for an adult? Or is there just not as many adults floating out there that haven't been baptized?
I don't know. I mean, I think that is a good question. I alluded to it a little bit this week, and just that it's been a point of prayer for me, because I can't fathom that only children and teenagers there are the only ones that haven't been baptized. Like I think there's too much life lived out there to not do it. But I think that there might be some type of stigma to an adult that maybe that was a decision they should have made earlier. And so like maybe, by making that decision, maybe there's shame where there shouldn't be shame. It should be like this freedom, but maybe there's like a little sense of shame and like, no, I missed that part. Like I should have done that, but I didn't do that. And so then I maybe don't want to do it, as an adult. I'm not sure. Yeah. I think it'd be great if more people were willing to, no matter what age or stage they are in life, if that's a commitment that they hadn't made before, or even just a commitment that, I don't know. It'd be great. It'd be awesome to see them do that.
Well, part of it is absolutely the fact that we've got to make sure that people that don't know Christ are coming in and encountering Christ in this place.
Yeah.
And that, I think, has gotten a little harder and a little harder over the years of ministry to get people that maybe have already just kind of said no to church. No, like, I kind of got the gist of what church is. It's not for me. How do you get through that layer of, well, I'm not a church person, so don't come at me with that church stuff. Like, how do you get past that so that you can really bring the gospel out to these people and hopefully get them to come and see what we're about here?
No, the world changed, man. The world is different. Like, you got to acknowledge that the world is different. I think, even for me growing up, like, people would canvass neighborhoods. They would knock on doors and, leave flyers or talk to you about their church. And we don't do that anymore. And I'm not saying that we should, because I think that the world has changed. And now, somebody comes up on my Ring doorbell and I'm like, what, did I order something? Or like, is this a solicitor? The world is a little bit different. We're not like as open and free as we were at one point to just exchange ideas and talk about stuff. And so I think that probably makes it a little bit more difficult. So we've got to find, if the world is different, like, how do we now do the equivalent of a knock on the door and like share our faith or share about us? Like, what does that look like? Because that doesn't tend to work very much anymore.
Yeah. Well, there's people that are actively looking, right? There's people that are just, God has really moved and stirred them to be receptive at that moment. And I think those are the people that are easiest, you can kind of grab them into a conversation, because maybe they'll start the conversation, maybe they'll ask a question. But the people that have said no and they're not looking, man, those sometimes those are the people where it has to be that next level of relationship building, where you start, maybe you're months into a relationship where you don't talk about God with them yet, but they're just seeing, well, that's who God is in when John or when Jason or when Dustin are around. That's who God is to him, and they're seeing a different side of God or the church or things that maybe it start to open that up. But it doesn't just you can't just do that with a stranger in a way that it's going to take root the way that maybe. You kind of have to bring them along to, I'd like to give it one more try. I just feel like we're dealing with a lot of disaffected, as a word that I've heard, but just a lot of people that have been hurt by the church or have had a negative experience by the church. De-churched, yeah. So we're dealing with a lot of people that have heard of the gospel, but have kind of tried to move away from it. Whereas I think for a while, at least when I was growing up, it was go tell everyone about Jesus. Well, it's like, well, how many times can I tell that person about Jesus when really what they need to do is experience Jesus?
Yeah. So. Well, I think, this may fly, this may not. I think, it sounds so weird to say this as a pastor, I don't think that life change has to happen in the church first.
Right.
Like to build on what you're saying about relationship, I think that it's less about leading with come to my church in order to meet Jesus, and more like, hey, just being around me, having a conversation with me, being different than the world around me, enables me to start a conversation that maybe down the road leads to the invitation to church. Maybe it's because I've developed relationship and I have the opportunity, where I think as in the past, we just felt like, well, just get them to church. And I think that, maybe, church can be like at, the ball field. Church can be at like, at a high school football game. It can be, at a park. It can be at a coffee shop with the same people you see. It can be at the gym. Like when I go to the gym in the morning, I see like the same 20 people and I probably couldn't tell you like half of their names. Like some of them like I've encountered, but for the most part, it's like headphones in and like do my thing. But like if I'm seeing the same people every day, I could probably engage in more relationship there to open that door.
Yeah, I think that it's gone from, we've been in ministry long enough to hear people tell us that, well, you need to go canvass a neighborhood, or you need to go door to door. Or I still remember one time we did that, and I went to knock on a door, and it said no solicitation means, and it had like this list of items, and church was one of them.
Oh wow.
We still knocked on the door, but, but like the thing
breaking
is,
the law,
breaking the law. I feel like a rebel. But we went from I think times have changed from that to understanding that like we don't know the amazing amount of wisdom that God has, but He is all wise, He is all knowing, and He puts us around people instead of us saying, well, how are we going to reach this whole neighborhood? He's already put us around like a ton of people.
Yeah.
That we can just influence with our life and the way that we live Christ out. So I think you're right. I think it happens long before we get them on the property, or we get them in the parking lot, or we get them to church. I think it's more, you have to show that in a relationship first, or we're going to probably not ever have that chance.
I think it'd be dangerous if we allow that to become an excuse, though. Like if we were like, well, the world's different, and that's why I don't invite people, or the world's different. I think if we have this strong relationship with Christ, then it will ooze out of us. That's the only way I know how to say it. Like, but then it will like ooze out of us. Like it will naturally be in conversation, or it'll be like, yeah, I was talking to somebody from my church, or, just like little things. It's not like this list of hints that you drop in conversation, but it will just happen more naturally. Yeah. If Jesus is first in your life and that's what matters the most, then it will naturally come out in conversation, and it won't feel awkward.
Yeah, and I think that there are just so many different ways we ought to be doing it, that each person in each situation there's not the right way to share the gospel, because each person's different and may need to experience, and you may need to have. And so what matters more to maybe whoever's listening to this podcast is, are you trying? Maybe it's good. Less about this is the best way to share the gospel, and are you actually making that a priority? Is that your point?
I look at
pearls of wisdom over here.
The camera there.
That's good.
And so if you're out there trying, then that's one thing. But if when I say how do you share the gospel, and you think, well, maybe I should. Maybe that's your cue to say, okay, well, a little bit more thought and
urgency,
effort.
A little more urgency would be good.
That could be cool.
I like that. That'll preach, man.
I thought of my ministry moment, memorable ministry moment.
Yes,
and it also goes along with
MMM.
A little segment we're going to call church fails. And so mine's going to double dip in, because this is memorable for me, and it's a fail, which I feels like is easy, but I was working for you over a different church, and I don't know why you gave me this much leeway to do this, but I bought a zip line. I bought like a zip line kit with like the youth budget or something.
You can get anything online.
You can,
including a zip line.
So we had like a youth building, and there were some trees, and I found the perfect trees to put these up. I thought a good decline and just a lot of fun. And so we had an intern, I forget that guy's name, but, we had an intern with us at the time, and we built this zip line.
He made a great impact on you.
Well, I don't know. We didn't have him that long, did we? I feel like, never mind, I don't want to speculate. If you're out there watching the podcast,
he's not. Okay. There's no way.
I'm sorry, he wasn't there long, but he wanted to be a senior pastor anyway. I was that's not, the God called.
Who would want to do that?
No, youth ministry was it. And so we built this thing. We climbed the trees and we put this thing in these trees. And we were like, all right, the teenagers are going to use this, but we need somebody to test it, make sure it's safe. So obviously, I guess I had gotten a level above intern, so I had a guy to be like, all right, test it for us. And the sheer terror on his face. But I do remember the moments of when I grew up a little bit as a minister, watching as the members of the church trusted their children with me to put them on this zip line, 12-year-olds, and just
no helmets, no harness,
nothing. No, I mean they're just sitting on a little string and it's just going down. But the way that we had designed it was basically. It was going to stop right in front of the tree it was attached to, which I don't understand. And I just had my entire life flash before my eyes.
I see how this is going to play out.
The students were so excited, and so the very first one doesn't just hop on the zip line and go down.
Yeah.
They get like a running start on the zip line, and so it's just like run, jump on the rope, and just. And of course, I'm like, it's not. We haven't tested it. The intern did not go this fast, and so I'm sitting there like, I got to catch you. And I kid you not, when she hit the end of it, and it's like, you're done. When it stops, it stops. It just like boom, and then she flips right into my arms, like, and then we both hit the tree, and I was like. Yep, this was a great idea. And of course, within a few weeks, I think you had called me in the office and said, the insurance company doesn't, you probably made this up. But
No.
The insurance company really did make us get rid of the zip line?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
Which now I understand. Back then I was like, no way, man.
No.
They don't understand how important this is for our ministry.
So let's just get this straight. You tied a metal piece of string to one tree, a metal piece of string to another tree at an angle like this, and we're like, jump on that, kids, and see what happens.
I wasn't even there, and I could just in my mind tell you.
And this wasn't even the
how it was
90s.
going to go.
This is like the 2000s.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he made you get rid of it.
I definitely called our church insurance and was like, so would we be covered if someone were to get injured? And they were like, you have a what? A zip line?
The thing that they make you sign the forms for anywhere else you would go.
That's right. So, yeah, thanks.
I did have dreams of when we go on a breakaway trying to do one across the lake one year. Man, that's still just on there. Like, boy, that's such a
I'm going to say
goals.
no. Let's not do that.
Insurance has come a long way, Jason. I'm sure we can find somebody that'll cover this.
They sure
There's
have.
no way. There's absolutely no way.
What about y'all? Any church fails?
What you got, man?
I will say a good memorable moment, okay? Because I don't know if I want to share all the.
There's like bad church fails and good church fails. Well, John just put a lawsuit on the internet, so that's fine.
No. So in kids ministry, kids will ask the craziest questions, and sometimes they'll say things out of nowhere. And this one Sunday morning at a church that I was at, I was teaching the kids about communion, about the body of Christ and the blood of Jesus. And of course, as soon as you say it in children's ministry, you're like, but it's not real blood. It's okay. It's not the blood of Jesus. It's, representation kind of thing. So we pass out the communion elements. The kids receive communion. We take communion together. I'm praying, and I think it's just spirit-filled moment. I just feel like God's right there in our midst, and the kids are just really getting it. And this one boy, he's probably about 6. I won't say his name because he's related to someone here. But he said, Pastor Dustin, can I have more of the blood of Jesus, please? And I was like, I don't think we don't usually do free refills on communion. And then I just lost control of the whole thing. And I was like, that's not what I was going for, but it was fun.
That reminds me of a story. So this church used to be located at another location when I was growing up. Dustin and I were there back in the day over in McMurray Drive, and it was two different buildings. And in the original building, it was like a traditional old sanctuary that had some kind of like loft room over top. So naturally, like any good church, we called that the upper room.
Of course.
And that's where the youth met, was in the upper room.
Nice.
And we had a youth pastor at that time, and we did a communion service. And as we were leaving, he was like, "Oh, before you guys leave, we've got plenty more Jesus for you," because I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
I still remember that oftentimes. Listen, church fails, man. I've said often I should write them down because they would be a very entertaining book of church fails. Everybody has a church fail. Something that just out of nowhere happened. Usually you don't cause a church fail, like putting up a zip line, but usually they just happen. I think one of my greatest church fails was in my first or second year as lead pastor here. We had a Christmas service. And you guys were both there for this. We had our Advent wreath. And so the Advent wreath was right there on display. And the Advent wreath at that time, I think it was made out of plastic. I'm pretty sure it was like a plastic arrangement. And as Advent, continues, the candles get lower every, Sunday. And so by the last Sunday of Advent, the candles were fairly low. And there was like a choir, something happening. And all of a sudden, I see people start to look, and flames are coming from the Advent candle. So it is for sure caught all this plastic on fire, and it's spreading. And before I could do anything, someone from our congregation, a man from our congregation, walked straight up there and with his hands just put out the fire.
Oh yeah,
a working man.
Done. Yeah, it was it. Put out the fire, saved the day. Choir never stopped, so like any good choir, they kept on rolling. So it was great. Well, there was still like a little bit of time, and I get a text message, and it was Pastor Dustin on the other side of the sanctuary. Just if you ever see us check our phones, it's business only.
Yes.
But I got a message, and he said, "Hey, man, the other candle is getting close. What should we do?" And I was like, abort, blow out the Advent candles. Right. And so then he came up and blew out the candles before I got to preach.
I didn't do it with my bare hand, though.
No, you didn't. You just
the guy in our church had to have some tough, calloused working hands, like you said.
Imagine. He's like,
done. I would have not been able to do that.
But
we've got little snuffers that we use for Good Friday.
Manly little snuffer, right?
Like any good pastor, I got up and I said, "Well, service has been lit."
Oh, there you go.
I thought, wow, that was good. I was just trying to be one of the kids.
Yeah,
using the new words.
One of the youths these days, the new lingo.
Yeah. Oh, the new words will get you.
No cap.
Yeah.
Oh, cap. Oh, yeah.
Well, I think what happens is as soon as we start using the words, they're done.
That's it.
That's how they'll judge, when a word is over. Nah, I heard so-and-so's dad use it.
Yeah.
We're not going to say that anymore.
Yeah, I once said sus to my kids, and they're like, "Dad, you can never say that word again." In fact, we're not saying it anymore.
Yeah.
So
we officially hand that to you.
We just moved into a whole other section of podcast where we are now diagnosing the language of the. The Gen Z.
I'm intentionally trying to stay away from it because we would have to actually know what it means to really spend much time on it.
Oh no, I definitely have to look up some stuff and be like, please tell me what sus means.
Yeah. I'm still not even sure.
Yeah.
I thought I said it right, but I guess I didn't.
I'm sure you had it pretty close. Well, we need to end this thing.
How about some questions? Do we have some questions?
Yeah, let's see if the audience... it looks like the comments were not on for the last podcast.
So that's a question. Why were the comments?
We definitely asked people to put comments, and we didn't turn on the comments.
So I've got an idea. Maybe we should do a pretend question from the audience. Imagine what they would have asked you if if the comments had been on. What type of questions would we have gotten? And that was. I just figured that'd be a fun way to end the podcast with some pretend questions. We don't even have to answer the questions. So what's fun is we don't practice this beforehand. So now you're going to see some of the stand-up.
I had no idea.
The skills right here, the quick thinking, witty pastors of Concord. So pretend questions. What do people out there want to know after hearing us talk for 30 minutes?
I have no idea. I don't know what people want to know.
I bet people want to know where Jason gets his hats.
Yeah.
Oh, I like my new hat.
Oh, yeah. New hat. Right on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, how do we seem so assured of ourselves, right? Something like that. Like when we answer questions and talk like this. I mean, why are we so amazing on camera? I don't know.
That's probably what they're thinking.
Probably. I mean,
amazing.
I think there should be a qualifier. If that is somebody's question, here's the qualifier. We do not claim to be experts.
Yeah, that's right.
We are giving our best knowledgeable opinion.
What are you talking about? If they want a zip line installed at their church, call me.
That's definitely
You just ruined me ever being able to put a zip line in.
Definitely not.
You were aiming for that?
I might have been, but
definitely not.
I just exposed the fact that it was already never going to happen, though.
That's all right.
All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Yeah.
That's it. We love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.